Good afternoon, everyone. I welcome you all to today's webinar on TechGig.com. Today's webinar topic is 4 P's: prepare, practice, produce results, and postmortem of software testing learning. We are delighted to have with us Mr. Ganesh Sahai, Head Quality Engineering at Aristocrat Technologies, as a speaker today. Ganesh has done BTech from IIT Delhi. He has been founder, co-founder, and founder team member of few startup companies and initiatives in the field of information technology, marketing, and academics. He has been working for Adobe since 1999. He has led and set up many of the key testing teams from scratch for various Adobe products like Acrobat, Adobe Reader, AIR, CS, etc. Gentlemen, this presentation will continue for next 45 minutes and we will take your questions after the presentation. Meanwhile, you can post your queries through the chat pane available in webinar control panel. So without further delay, I invite Ganesh to present this webinar. Over to you, Ganesh. Thanks, Kishan. So welcome everybody to this webinar of on the 4th year of software testing learning. Okay, so brief introduction about myself. This has already been given by Keshav, so I'll just skip this slide. So as the title suggests, 4P. Now 4P comprises of prepare, practice, produce results, and postmortem. And as we proceed in this webinar, I will delve into each of these 4 aspects of software testing learning, and then how we can implement it in our day-to-day software testing job. So in terms of preparing ourselves, the first and foremost thing to understand is preparing ourselves to know the sector of software testing. And so if you look at the future growth of the sector and the domain and the different roles which are available, one of the critical things that I want to share with you, and this is from the latest Gartner report, which says that the software testing work are outsourced to India account for around $4.7 billion. And this is growing at the rate of 15% annually. So that is, year after year, 15% more work will be outsourced to India. And if you see that this growth means there will be a lot of potential for a lot of newer jobs in the software testing area. However, the education, formal education related to software testing, especially to the students in their curriculum at colleges and institutes, it's almost nil actually. And there are a lot of people who are into the testing job, and they got into this career, but did not have an opportunity to prepare themselves through a formal training. And in the absence of that, grabbing new jobs which would require people having versatile knowledge about all aspects of testing is very essential. So that kind of knowledge will enable people to move ahead in their careers.
So that's one thing to look at in terms of preparing, that you understand the area of software testing industry as a whole, and then look out for the kind of opportunities that are available and move on to the next step of preparation. So in software testing, it is very important to understand that what it takes to perform your job and produce results. And you need to have two kinds of skills. One is technical skill, another is non-technical skill. In terms of technical skills, definitely you need to acquire testing related skills, and these includes various forms of testing like black box testing, white box testing, or gray box testing. And then there are specialized kind of testing, like performance testing or a memory leak testing, these kind of things. So so that is related to specifically to testing. However, you also need to have some basic computer fundamental skills and knowledge about it. And it's a great add-on if you have knowledge about programming, data structures, and algorithms, especially if you are going for white box or gray box related testing. And to be successful in a testing career, you also need to have non-technical skills. And one of the most important non-technical skill is communication, whether verbal or written. So verbal as in if you are talking face to face with a developer or a manager, you should be able to articulate and speak out very well the kind of issues that you are seeing in the software product, so that the other person gets it. In terms of verbal, in terms of non-verbal, that is written communication, you're writing a bug report, it should have clear-cut information which would enable the other person to reproduce the bugs. Even if you're writing a mail, it should have absolutely precise and concise information into it. Presentation is very important. That if you are making a test report or a quality report, people should be able to get the major highlights. You're just looking at that report. They don't have to dig up for information to those presentations. Conflict management, since it is about finding defects and bugs into the products. So when you go and report it to the person who has written the code or created that product, there might be at times conflicts. And for a tester, it is very important to understand how to manage conflict. Next is visibility. That is whatever work you are doing, and at different levels in the organization, you have to make sure that the information goes over there, because it is related to the quality of the product. And at different level of people, at different levels in the organization, people are concerned about the quality of the product. So as a tester, you have to ensure that whatever work you are doing, it is getting right visibility in the right quantity at different levels. And be brave and respectful in terms of accepting failures and success. So as you go along in your testing job, there might be failures and there might be success. You have to be brave and respectable for both the kind of situations. And definitely it's a competitive world, so there will be competition. You will be competing with your peers, right? And you will be competing for visibility, right? So for all those things, you have to keep your eyes open and move forward. Next is you have to set your career goals along with the timelines. So let us say you join as a fresher, as a test engineer. Then where do you see yourself at the end of second year, 5th year, 7th year, 10th year, 15th year, and 20th year, let's say. Here is a in this slide I've shared a kind of a broad level at different years that you might aspire to reach. So for example, let's say at the second year, you might want to reach at the second level of the position at which you joined as a fresher. Then around 5th year, you might want to be at level 3 and lead. In the 7th year, you might want to be at senior engineer, assistant manager, or senior lead position. and then in the 10th year you might be at manager or senior manager position, and in the 15th year as the head director or VP of testing, and then in the 20th year, you might aspire to become chief quality officer. So with respect to your ambition, right, and you can set your timeline as to the various levels that you want to aspire. And then also identify what is required to move from one level to the next level. Let us say from engineer level 1 to engineer level 2, from level 2 to level 3, or to senior lead, or to senior manager, or to head, so on. So because the requirement at the different levels are different. Of course, when you move to the senior level, you got to have the experience of the junior levels, because then you will be monitoring the work of the junior level people. And this you should see both in terms of what technical skills are required at the next level, and also what non-technical skills are required at the next technical level. Because if you move to manager role, there is a lot of people management component that comes in, and are you preparing yourself to deal with that, right? And of course you have an interest into people management, and share with the management that you aspire for that. And then there are certain things which are organizational and group specific. So for example, the kind of practices which are there in a product oriented company may be different for companies which are service oriented. So typically product oriented companies may not follow processes like CMM, and so on. But the services kind of company, they follow it, and having a good knowledge about that would be a real value add in those kind of organizations. And once you basically know what it takes to move to the next level, just knowing is not going to take you to the next level. So you'll have to prepare yourself, and then put yourself into action. So in terms of preparing yourself for a good career in testing, you've got to understand the software testing and its vocabulary, absolutely each and every part of it. You should understand the role of testing in software lifecycle. You should understand what specialized testing techniques are. You should be very well versed with various test design techniques. You should know, all aspects of test management. You should understand what test automation is and what are the different tools that you can use for test automation. And then what are the other skills that are required in testing? You should be aware of that. As I discussed, there are other non-technical and technical skills that you need. But in terms of testing, this is a kind of a list that you have to check that whether you are well versed with it or not. Now, you may have heard these terms, but do you know in and out of what you need to prepare yourself with respect to these aspects of testing? Of course, you can talk to people around you, and I'll cover aspects of it in my webinar today. Or you can take specialized courses which are available. So for example, one of the courses which is available is from TechGig, and the course on software testing. It's available on the TechGig site under www.techgig.com/ecourse, and it comes with the Science Business Solutions certification. This is the kind of certificate you will get if you score 70% or above in this online module. Okay, so now let us take an example and see how you apply the 4P technique. So let us say you are testing different features of Firefox. Firefox, which is a very popular and common web browser. But there could be features like the basic feature of display HTML pages. Then there is feature of bookmarks, find search, and so on. There are so many features in Firefox. It's an open source project. You can go and have a look at it on the net. Now, let us say you are to test display of HTML pages in Firefox Viewer. How do you prepare yourself for it? So one of the things is that you have a set of HTML files and bytes, and you open them and you verify them whether what you wanted to be displayed is getting displayed properly or not. So let us say if the TechGig site opens up, so you are seeing the top banner and the various links, and the links are operational, the color of the text is okay, all those kind of things. And the next level would be that you start to understand the HTML specs. So you go to like W3C site, and then you download the HTML spec and you go over there, and then you start to have different test cases and test files for each of the HTML tags. So let's say paragraph, table, button, for each of these tags you start to create test files and write test cases that what you want to verify in these. Now next level would be that you start to have test cases and test files for different combinations. Now once you have reached this level, so the next level you might consider yourself to be in, or taking your testing to be automatic generation of test files. How can from time to time I can automatically generate test files. Then automatic opening of these test files and comparing the rendered content against a benchmark. So let us say a simple HTML page, it contains a name string, then against it a text box, and against it a button. So if these three elements are there, if I open up in the new build of Firefox, whether these three items are coming up or not, and then you will verify whether the caption, the string is the text string is okay or not, the field is in the place or not, and the button has the right label on top of it or not, and so on. You can have all the test cases that you have. You can look into how to automate them. Now the next thing is that you start to understand that how this rendering is happening in the browser. So you start to look at the code, and that's where your white box testing starts, when you start to look at the code, and you wonder that how the content from an HTML file is getting displayed over here. So one of the first things that you will realize is that you need a HTML parser. So can I directly test the HTML parser? Is it giving the right kind of output to the renderer? And you start to go deeper and deeper. So you start to look into also the non-functional aspects. So for example, performance testing, is the browser opening up the websites in the right amount of time? Is it an issue related with the performance of the browser or the network speed, and so on. So this is about I just shared an example of Firefox, and what you can do in your current jobs is that whatever project you are working on, you start to assess your approach, that what is it that currently I am doing in my testing project, and then that if I develop myself in all the aspects of the testing which I listed in the previous slides, if I develop myself into that, then you start to look into what aspects of that learning you can implement in your current project. And when you implement it, there might be challenges. One is that let's say you start to relook at the design of the test cases, and then you realize, oh, I forgot what was one of the techniques. So you refer back to your learning, you go back to your course and refresh again, and then come back, and this way you will reinforce your learning. So this is the practice part, that whatever you learn, you start to practice in what you are doing. Now it might be possible that either in the project that you are working, you are not allowed to experiment much. You are just given a set of test cases, and your job is to execute them. Or there are other aspects. For example, let's say you want to experiment with performance testing, but that's not the job assigned to you, but you want to learn about it and you want to do it. So if your current organization doesn't provide you that kind of an opportunity, so that is where you can pick up an open source project at your in your personal free time, right? And all the information related to Firefox testing, is available online. For example, Firefox is one of the open source projects, and then you can, go through it, set it up on your machine, start reading through test cases. If you want to do performance testing, see how you can do, and so on and so forth. Or you can pick up any other, open source project. For example, MySQL is there, and so many other are there. Next is that when you practice, you will produce some results. So you get in action, and make sure you implement what you have learned, right? So that you basically get a taste of it. That does it really make sense or does it not? What are its you will come to realize what are its plus points, what are its minus points, where it is applicable, where it is not applicable. So that process itself, when you practice, you will get results. It will leave you with a learning. And when you're practicing, keep noting down the success and failure. So for example, when you practice, you realize that a bug was missed and reported by the customers. So you got to check knowledge and test design techniques. That what are they actually, right? Other could be the estimated time of delivery was missed or delivered earlier, right? So you might want to go back and check your estimation techniques and refresh your knowledge and estimation techniques. Customer send a note of appreciation. Now, when the customer sends a note of appreciation, to figure it out that what is it that he liked? Was the timely delivery? Was it the communication? Or was it the quality of the functionality of the features and hence the test cases that you executed which gave that good quality of functionality of the features? So, you prepare yourself, you put in practice certain things, and you produce the results, and you make note of the success and failures, what you implemented. Next is, you do a post-mortem or post results. So when I say post-mortem, what I mean is that you analyze the success and failures. When you analyze the failures and look for what was missing, you look into what was missing in terms of technical and non-technical things. And you analyze the success and look for what was present which got the success and build further onto it. So if customer send a note of appreciation, you try to find out that what is the aspect that you like, as I just shared with you. Or you can seek acknowledgement from your manager or management that what do you think this work that I did, was it good, bad, or just average? And this is a very important aspect that many a times we get involved so much or busy in our work that we like even if we have got some success, we don't seek acknowledgement from our immediate boss. But we should be open about it, and there is nothing wrong in going and asking for acknowledgement from your boss. Another very important aspect is seeking feedback. Now, seeking feedback could be both formal and informal. Either you can formally write a mail and seek feedback with a list of questions, or you can have an informal chat, with the customer or your manager or your colleague, to get to know that where you are, doing good, where you are not doing good. And then, both juniors and seniors, you should be open about seeking feedback, right? Both levels have, some input to share which might add a lot of value and open up opportunities for you. So post-mortem is a very critical aspect. Now, once you have done the post-mortem, so you will look for the missing areas of preparedness. And then you will, start to prepare yourself. And, as I shared with you, so one of the ways you can do is that refer to the courses that is being offered at TechGig for software testing. Okay, and then you keep on repeating this 4T cycle of software learning. And then you keep referring back to the course and references. You can also, see guidances for S2 test which I run online. And, you can attend meetups, build one-on-one relationships, post Q&As online. And then that, cycle helps you to keep on building up your knowledge further. Okay, so any questions so far?
Yes, the questions have been shared with you. Can you see them in the questions pane?
Okay. So one of the things is that can you brief me how can do the test estimation? Okay, how can you do the estimation in design phase of the project? Okay, very good. I'll just briefly, I'll give of the topics, maybe a very detailed topic, and may need a separate webinar maybe. So in terms of test estimation and design phase itself, one of the ways to do it is that you basically take a thumb rule of what the development time is going to be, and based on that, you figure it out that how much how much testing time would be there. So let's say it may be 1:1 or 1:2, whatever. So that could be a thumb rule that you can use. The other way is that you know if you have a technical design spec with you, right, and then you have a function point analysis done by the development team, then you can use that function point analysis and use test point analysis technique on top of that to derive at the estimates. So that's another very technical way of doing it. Third definitely is that the historical data that you have on that project, and if it is a kind of project which has been in existence for some time, so what you are adding on next plus the legacy stuff. So from your experience, you say, okay, fine, here are the set of test cases. The new ones would be approximately another 10%. So earlier it used to take me 100 man hours. Now it is going to take another 10 man hours. So it's going to be 110 man hours. So like that. Okay. So one of you asked that you talked about acknowledgement of appreciation from immediate boss. How can it be achieved? Please elaborate on what form. All right. So if you did something right, and which you informally you have been appreciated, like either by your colleagues or by your boss. So you can go and ask your boss, right? Can there be a formal acknowledgement of this work that I've done? It's as simple as that. Just go and talk to him, right? Or if he is remote and you cannot, you can even drop a mail to him. So can you acknowledge this achievement of mine formally? It's very simple, straight. Okay. Another is cloud computing the future of testing? If yes, how can we train on that technology? Yeah, a lot of tools are coming through cloud now, and testing is also leveraging those tools. So, for example, there are test case management systems which are available on the cloud. There are performance testing tools which are available on the cloud. There are virtual machines which are available on the cloud for you to test. So yes, so getting familiar with the testing opportunities available on the cloud, the tools and technologies. Keep looking out on the net. See the various webinars that are happening, the recordings that are available. Right, if there are trainings that are being offered, attend those. That will help you a lot. Okay. Right. So I'll take the questions later on now. So let me move on to the next part of the presentation. All right. So let us look at this example in detail. The example that I showed you of Firefox and the display of HTML pages. When you get the first level of testing, that is iteration 1, and let's say you did the post-mortem, and three things came out. So three things were that very high font sizes were not displaying correctly. Second thing was that the Chinese characters did not display correctly. And third is that you had to spend long, late hours testing it. So now, see what was missing in the test design, that you missed out on very high font sizes thing. So you need to go back and review your knowledge on test case design, and then come back and review your test cases. So maybe the proper analysis of the boundary value was not there in terms of the fonts that you were trying to display, and that's why you missed out on that given set of high font sizes. So you need to go back and add those missing test cases. Now later, the Chinese characters not displaying correctly, there were probably some assumptions definitely made, and one of the assumptions probably made was that Chinese is not supported. So what is it that the learning is? That next time list down all the assumptions and get clarification. And this happens many a times if you don't identify all the categories of equivalence classes. So you might have identified one category of an equivalence class. Let us say one category was the English alphabets, but you never thought about the other scripts. Third is you have to spend long late hours on testing. So that clearly shows that something was missing in estimation. So or one of the things that could be missing is in estimation. There could be maybe other things, but let us assume for this discussion that the estimation was not correct. Okay. Now, so when the iteration started, you prepared yourself. You reviewed and learned the test case design techniques. You added the missing test cases, and you reviewed and learned the estimation techniques, and then you planned your testing for the iteration 2 in the manner that you added the new test cases and executed them, and you implemented the new estimates that you arrived at. And when you arrive at the new new estimates, you realize that you need 2 new resources. And when you got the 2 resources, the management said, okay, fine, you will play the role of the lead for these 2 new resources. Right? So this is what you got out of the practice. Now, when you conducted all this thing, you produce some results. Now, these the results would be that the large font problem was tested well, and you raised the bugs and the issues were solved, and like they were fixed. Similarly, Chinese character tested well, and all the issues discovered and resolved. And the third result that you produced is that even with the 2 new resources, the loading on the self did not reduce. That you were still spending late hours. So this is the result that you produced. And in the post-mortem, when you look at the various practices and the results, you realize that the loading on the self did not reduce. Why? Because the two new resources were not loaded properly. Now you go into the iteration 3 and you prepare yourself. And in terms of preparing yourself, when you saw that the loading of self did not reduce, so you reviewed test planning and test management areas from your course or whatever reading material that you have. And during that preparation, you came to know about various stuff. For example, let's say there is IEEE 829 test planning template, there is this Google 10-minute test plan experiment, and so on and so forth. And you also came to know about that there is something called execution plan concept, which you were not implementing at all. So what you do is in practice you go and prepare a test plan, and you create a test execution plan for your 2 resources, which basically clearly carved out that what these 2 resources have to do, right, and what you will do on a day-to-day basis. And then you produce the results. That is, let's say you got good appreciation from the management for preparing a very good plan and introducing that new concept into the team. And you also gave let's say a presentation on Google 10-minute test plan experiment, which got people really interested in what are new ways of test planning could be. And then the 2 new resources that you had got into your team, they got to do more work. because it's not just that you are doing all the work, but you are able to distribute work in a much more effective manner, right? And they also got to do more work, and since they did more work, they learned more, right? And all three of you went home with a satisfaction of doing a good job. And when you do the postmortem of this iteration 3, you realize that there is too much of manual testing, and hence not only the time taken is high, but the probability of missing bug during the iteration is also high. So next you basically get into again a 4P exercise, right, and keep on referring back to your reading material or courses that you've done. If you've done the e-course from TechGig, then you can refer back to it, and so on. So if I look at the various basic concepts, right, which you need to be well versed with and grounded in, right. So one is that you really need to understand what the software lifecycle and testing role is, right. So with respect to different models, right, yes, you should know traditional models so that you know why they are not any longer used in majority of the situations. So, and then you need to be updated about the latest agile models and their forms like Scrum. And then you need to have a good grounding into different type of testing: black box, white box, gray box, component testing, integration testing, system testing, acceptance testing. Then difference between static testing and dynamic testing, functional versus non-functional, and so on. And then various other specialized testing like performance testing, memory leak testing, connection leak testing, security and vulnerability testing, database and data warehouse testing, accessibility testing, globalization and localization testing, like that. And then the test design technique, there are dynamic and static test design techniques. The dynamic test design techniques are the specification based, or which are called commonly as black box test design techniques, which include things like equivalence partitioning, boundary value analysis, decision tables, state transition, use case based. And then there is this structure based or white box testing, which one form is test coverage and measurement based, which focuses on code coverage technique, that is statement coverage, decision coverage, condition coverage, branch coverage. And then there is structure design based, which are basis, path, and control structure. And another is mutation testing. And some of the other techniques are experience based, which are error guessing and exploratory. And in static test design techniques, you have the reviews and the static analysis by tools. In test management in test management, you have to be well grounded in various test process aspects like planning and control, setting test mission, policy, objective, and strategy for your testing, test plan, test control, process planning, test effort estimations, risk management, and then test execution itself. That what comprises of execution plans, how the monitoring is done, and then the measurement. As the famous scientist Lord Kelvin said, who gave the famous Kelvin temperature scale. He said that if you cannot measure it, you cannot improve it. So similarly, in testing, you got to devise ways to measure various quality parameters, and then come up with the right kind of matrices. Now these could be both qualitative and quantitative, and then set appropriate quality goals and measure the matrices. So that's another area that you should be well grounded in. And then the test automation and the various tools. So what to do the strategy and how to calculate the ROI, and then you can look at the various open source and proprietary tools. So for example, in functional testing, for test case management, you have open source tools like TestLink or proprietary tool like Quality Center. Then for functional testing, you have open source tool like Selenium or a proprietary tool like QTP. And then for performance testing, you have open source tool like JMeter, right, and proprietary tool like Roadrunner. Okay, and of course there are other skills in testing which are also very important. For example, what kind of psychology you should have in testing. How do you present your results of your work in testing, what kind of attitude works in testing, and then what kind of aptitude you should have in testing. So all those things. So, so any questions so far? Okay. Okay. So one of the questions is that we have already prepared test plan. A change request comes in between. What is the effect on the schedule? Okay, very good. So whenever a new change request come in, first is that when you do the test planning, it is very important to set your test execution plans. And the test execution plan will show the loading of each and every resource and the various tasks that he is doing and the priority of those tasks. So when a new change request comes in, you will estimate that how much time it takes to execute that. And then you discuss with the management that in order to incorporate this, either we stretch the working hours of each person, or we ask them to come on the weekends, or we basically drop the low priority things in the existing plan, or we move out the schedule, right? Now these are the options that you have that you will have to work out with your management. Definitely stretching is the last option that you should work on, because it will increase the burnout of your team. And but if it is a very critical thing and there is a hard deadline that you need to ship on, then yes, the team has to gear up and take extra load, right? Or you might have to ask temporary extra resource at times. Yeah. So this is it about this. Okay, how to measure how much test cases are enough, not more, not less for a particular scenario. See, what you can do is that the coverage techniques, code coverage techniques, are one good way to see that what are the levels of testing that you want to achieve. So, and depending upon your project and your past experience, you may see whether you want to go for, let's say, 60% is sufficient, or you want to go for 80% or 90%, like that. Okay, so one of the question is that just 1 second. How this 4P helps in agile Scrum methodology? Okay, so you see, as I told you, 4P is you prepare yourself, you practice yourself, and you produce results, and then you post-mortem. Now you can do in Scrum methodology, there is a concept of sprints. Typically a sprint is of 20 working days. So at the end of the sprint, there is always a sprint retrospective. So whatever things that come up in sprint retrospective, that is an item that that would be a good place for you to feed for your 4P learning into your postmortem. That what is it that for you it was missing, right? And then you prepare yourself and then practice that and produce yourself in the next sprint, and then like that, sprint after sprint after sprint. So if, let's say, if it is a 10 sprint project, at the end of the 10th sprint, you would have really taken yourself to the next level of your knowledge and learning. Can you please suggest some open source tools for automate mobile applications? Yeah, I think I recently shared one platform that is getting developed, which is called M-Automate. So maybe you can look at that, and yeah. So, and there are a bunch of other open source platforms that are available which you can use. Okay. So one question is that when you write 25 cases for a particular scenario, other tester has 50 test cases, and other tester write 100 test cases, so which will be considered perfectly right. Now, you see, it is different. It's the test case writing style of different testers. So some write very granular test cases, some write less granular test cases, and when they execute, the person who has written low granular test cases may be executing much more than what he has written. So now if it is we forget about the additional thing that a tester has done during the execution and just see that only the test cases are being executed. Now to see which is perfectly right, one of the techniques that you can use is the code coverage techniques, and see how much is the state coverage, how much is the branch coverage, condition coverage, those kind of things. And even if you have written 100 test cases, but your coverage is lesser than 25 and 50, then 25 and 50 are good enough, and 100 is not good enough. Yeah. Okay, let me finish the slide deck, and then I'll come back to the questions again. All right. So coming back to the slide deck, here are some of the good books that you can refer to. One of the earliest books and a good reference is Computer Software Testing by Ken Kemmer, and then you can look at Software Testing Foundation book by Andreas Skinner, then Critical Testing Process book by Rex Black, and you should actively join some of the communities and keep looking at the websites related to testing. One of the communities is Test to Be Best. You can join that community. It's available on Facebook and Google groups. And there are others like Sticky Mind and Development Science sites that you can refer to. And feel free to write to me anytime on my Gmail account. Here are the details of my availability. Yeah, and when you are on your job, just go ahead with a mission that testing is your core job, and you're going to do a great job out of testing, and whatever best you want in your life. If you do a great job on what you're doing, which is testing, automatically that is the kind of spirit you will carry back home, right? And you'll be happy home, and then everybody at home will be happy. You'll come back to the office as a happy person, and then execute on whatever you're doing in a happy manner, and then you'll get in a positive spiral. So I invite all of you to do your job of software testing with a mission of test to be best. Thank you. So I'll take up questions. Let me just see what are the questions now. Hold on. Okay. So the next set of question is, does automation testing taking place of manual testing? What will be the future of manual testing after 5 years? Okay. So here's the thing that coming up with test cases, right, and test plans is is done by the human mind, human brain. Okay. Now, so once a tester has decided on the set of test cases that need to be executed, right, then they are automated, right? So the repeat action of doing the running those test cases can be automated. However, designing the test cases in the first place is going to be a manual process, and that will be done by a human mind only. So, and that is manual. Okay. So the test cases that need to be run again and again, you can automate that, and as the teams are moving, adopting more of the agile methodology, right? So the amount of time spent in the regression testing has to go down, and hence automation is very important, right? So a lot of automation is happening now. However, you cannot automate all the test cases. It's absolutely impossible, So the scope of manual testing is not going to go anywhere, right? Especially in test case design. So even after 5 years, there will be need for manual testers. There is no doubt about it. But manual testers having the automation skills, is going to be a very powerful combination. Okay, what should be the level in terms of knowledge for a test engineer with 2 years of experience? So he should be well grounded in all the aspects that I just listed down in the course that I talked about. Okay, whether a white box tester can perform as well as a black box tester. See, both have to have very good, grounding into things like test case design and various test design techniques, right, and test management, right. If they don't have that, right, the white box tester cannot be successful, and black box tester definitely cannot be successful, right. So yeah, so for a person to be a good white box tester, you need to be a good black box tester first. Okay. Could you please give some explanation about attitude and aptitude skills are required for performance testing? Okay. So, so look at the practical situations which you might be facing. You go and tell the developer that your code is not performing well, right? It is taking, let us say, to execute some functionality very long time. So how do you like, if you go and go and tell him in a mocking way, right? So definitely, depending on the personality of the developer, he might feel upset, right? And then he would start to question the integrity of your finding, right? And start to get into an argument with you, right? However, if you go with the kind of attitude that you are concerned about something, and you want to partner with him in terms of improving the performance of the product, right? So definitely, he would be giving you a different kind of listening. So your sharing of the results of the failure in the performance of the feature should act as an opportunity and invitation, right, to the developer for him to partner with you to produce a high quality product, and also for him to showcase his good skills, right? So so that's what I'm talking about attitude. Majority of the times, you go and share a certain failure with excitement because it's your finding. You are feeling very happy about what you succeeded in achieving, and the developer takes it that he is finding faults in me, right, rather than in the feature, right? And that's where the whole argument goes in a tangent direction, right? And there is not very good workability. As a tester, you've got to be responsible that when you are communicating with the developer, right, these kind of things, he sees an opportunity to build a high quality product and sees you as a very effective partner in doing that. Can I know the feature requirement for testing for the 5-year experience tester? I am not sure if I got the question right, but if you're talking about where you want to be in 5-year time frame as a tester, I shared one of the growth paths with you. See for yourself, in that hierarchy, what is your timeline and at what time frame you want to, let's say, reach to a manager position, senior lead position, or director, like that. Yeah. Okay. So one of the questions, does programming skills are really required if a person is interested in testing? and coming from complete non-technical background? If yes, what kind of roles they can handle or will be given in the current competitive industry? Okay. So first is that it's not mandatory to have programming skills, but you can appreciate much better the work done by a developer if you have programming skills. But it's not a must-have. Okay. However, if you want to do white box testing, then you really have to have programming skills. Also, in majority of the automation tools, a lot of scripting is done. So having a background of the programming skills helps you to easily learn those scripting styles and do a faster automation. Okay, will the testing teams will be involved from the initiation of the project, or when the testing teams will actually come into picture in a project? The testing team have to be involved right from the initiation of the project. It is very important, for a high quality product to be rolled out to the market. So if you are not getting involved, you should insist that you should get involved right from the beginning, so that you have all the background of what is coming into the project, what is getting dropped, why it is getting dropped, if somebody is getting some feature is getting added, and one is dropped, why that is getting added, or if some feature is tweaked in a certain way, why it is being tweaked in a certain, because that will be very useful information for you to understand the customer needs, right, and the client needs, and the challenges involved in implementing them, and then come up with the appropriate test cases and scenarios, and also give priority to the relevant test cases. Okay, so this is a question about psychology and attitude. We see always dev teams and dev manager dominate testing team. How do you tackle this? It's very simple. Don't let them dominate you, and so start to look at that. What is it that is there missing in the whole thing that lets them dominate, and you accepting that dominance, right? So so it might vary from team to team and organization to organization. So is it that is communication skills missing, or is a collaborative approach missing, right? Or is it that the technical knowledge missing, right? So all those factors keep on looking into, and practice the 4P approach, and see when you produce a result, keep on looking at it till you reach to a level where you are at a stage where you feel that now you have got a good working relationship, and it's no longer a situation where you are seeing that the dev team is dominating. Okay, I think I'll take one last question. Okay, is it possible to learn automation testing by own just by going through the manuals? Of course, yes. You can learn a lot about automation testing by downloading the trial versions and going through their documents, or taking help of online tutorials and courses, right? And that will build you to quite an extent. And then reach out to the communities who are already using these tools. That what they are doing with it. Attend the meetups, right? Establish one-on-one relationship with them, so that you can understand how they are using the tools, what are the challenges that they face, what kind of results. All right, friends, it was a pleasure, having this webinar with you, and I invite you all to practice this OT approach in your day-to-day testing job and produce the best result for yourself. Thank you very much. Thanks, Ganesh, for this informative webinar. It was really an enlightening session. We learned a lot from this webinar. I would also like to thank participants for joining this webinar and giving their precious time. Gentlemen, the recording of this webinar will be available on techgig.com by tomorrow. The next webinar on TechGig is happening on 2nd of May. The topic is Android app development, mastering data storage techniques. Speaker would be Vineet Agarwal, technical head at Bakery Technologies. So see you all Wednesday, May 2nd. Thank you. Thanks.